Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Got the Leveling System of Shielded Hero movie. Before we start, please go support Silverlion 12k for writing that awesome fanfic. All heroes come in shapes and sizes, come battle through challenges that make him stronger in the end. Join the Cardinal Hero, who will decide if the world is full of prosperity or calamity. Chapter 1 Cursed. Quirks. An abnormality that happens in the human body that about 80% of the population goes through. A unique alteration with the body that changes it in some way. Among them, there are 4 unique quirks that have been categorized as leveling quirks. Abilities that grow stronger, similar to an RPG. These 4, however, are more unique since they grow and get stronger due to the user's power. These quirks are called the cardinal weapons quirks. Each quirk holds a power connected to knuckle bracers, rings, foot bandages, or a form of firearms. However, these quirks were only categorized for a brief period of time before disappearing from the world. Until now. Upon the side inside a doctor's office, we see a small child with green messy hair sitting next to a woman with similar green hair that goes down to almost halfway down her back, with some being held up. These two are Inko and Izuku Midoriya. Today. The two were in this office to determine what Izuku's quirk would be, as he was around the age where most would manifest. They sat in the room across from a portly older man with a mustache and thick glasses where his eyes weren't visible. Yeah. Sorry kid, but you're not gonna get a quirk. Hearing this, Izuku's face froze and was in complete shock at this. Doctor. What's wrong? I don't understand why Izuku doesn't have one. All the other kids in his class do. Inko tried to understand, with the doctor explaining the best he could. For the most part, quirks manifest in unique ways. However, there is always an abnormality in the foot where a lack of a joint or an extra is given to the pinky toe. Since your son has a normal pinky toe, it's safe to say he probably will not get a quirk. Izuku's world crumbled as he was told this, with his mother feeling somewhat at fault for this. Is there any way that I can still become a hero? Izuku questioned the doctor, who was scratching his eyes. Sorry kid, that's not gonna happen. Now heartbroken, both mother and son began to get up and walk out. Mrs. Midoriya. A word before you leave. Turning to Izuku, Inko knelt down to speak with him. Izuku. I'll be back, but mommy needs to talk to the doctor. Why don't you wait in the waiting room and play with the toys in there? Izuku nodded before walking slowly to the outside. When the door shut, Inko turned back to the doctor, who seemed on edge. Ma'am. Times like these are by far the hardest I have. I despise lying to children, but this is an exception. What do you mean, doctor? The doctor pulled his notes out before continuing. Though most quirks don't manifest without an alteration in the pinky toe, there are still a small few that do not do that. As such, I ran a different test that is far more successful. What do you mean? Inko asked before finally getting an answer from the doctor. Your son has what's called a cardinal weapon quirk. It is a level-based quirk that grows stronger due to stats that the user is given. However, the quirk your son has is far more powerful than any normal leveling quirk and will be able to grow in several ways. Now, under normal circumstances, if your son had a quirk, I wouldn't recommend hiding it. However, several times we've seen level-based quirk users be abused and manipulated because of how powerful they are able to be. You must understand, your son defies the laws of nature with his quirk and would be either ostracized or manipulated by those that would desire the power he can give. But you're asking me to lie to him and say that he's quirkless? Don't you understand how different that will make him feel? Inko was floored. The doctor would suggest something so horrid with him pinching the bridge of his nose. No matter what way I look at it, he will face scrutiny. But let me ask you this question. Would you rather your son be belittled for being different or abused for his power? There are reasons many leveling quirk users don't make themselves known to the world, and that's for their own safety. Inko looked over to the door, knowing all she had to do to make her son feel better was say the truth, but looking at it in the larger end of things, Izuku's life may actually be worse if he was told he had a level-based quirk, as opposed to believing he doesn't at all. What if I deny your suggestion? Then I have to report this to the Japanese government and they'll take your son into protective custody. The government had made it specifically clear that these children that are born with these quirks have to be protected and nurtured how they see fit. He will be able to be a hero. In fact, they'd actually push to make him one regardless of his opinion, but you won't be there for him. I don't like separating kids from parents, that's why I suggested lying about it. Your son can still have a normal life and nobody will be separated from their family members. It isn't a great offer, but it's the best offer I can suggest. Inko thought of all that she was told. Her son could succeed in his dream, but he'd be alone in the world. At the very least, she could be there for Izuku when he was down and give him emotional support if she did lie, but that doesn't mean she'd like it. The choice is yours, but I need to know now what you'll do so I can fill out his paperwork correctly. Later that evening. Inko and Izuku arrived home with the young boy's spirit still down. Inko never told Izuku the truth, weighing the pros and cons. She knew he wouldn't understand why he had to be pulled away from her, but still hated lying. She went into his room to see Izuku continually watching a video he's seen probably a million times in the dark. "Mom." Izuku turned to his mother with tears in his eyes. "Look. Even when things are bad, All Might still saves people with a smile." Izuku looked at his mother with a broken smile with his eyes on the verge of bawling. Do you think I can still be a hero without a quirk?" Feeling her guilt well up, Inko hugged her son while crying at the sight she saw of him. "I'm sorry, Izuku. I'm so sorry." These weren't the words she wanted to say, and not the ones Izuku wanted to hear, but they were all she could say to give some form of comfort, knowing he couldn't know the truth. "If only things were different, Izuku. I'm sorry I have to lie to you." 10 years later. Izuku's life after being told he was quirkless turned out far worse as things went on. At first, it was just scrutiny from other kids. They'd pick on him and call him weak. One of his more antagonistic bullies was his former childhood friend Katsuki Bakugo. Being blessed with a very flashy quirk as well as being propped up on a pedestal only added to his already inflated ego, where he made it a personal point on a daily basis to keep Izuku below him. Though this was horrible, Izuku always had his mother to go towards for comfort. However, this changed about 4 years ago when she was in a dangerous car accident. The person responsible was a villain who was in a high-speed chase. He went over a crosswalk with Izuku in his way. In the last moment, however, Inko pushed him out of the way and took the car head-on. On the ground, she glanced up at Izuku and smiled at him, saying her final words of encouragement. "I know you can be a hero, Izuku. Never let what others say bring you down." The villain responsible was arrested, but this never undoes damage that comes from these acts. As such, Izuku was given funds from the government due to the incident and free rent. But in the end, the young man didn't care about any of that and only wanted his mother. Right now, Izuku is sitting in his classroom in his final year of middle school listening to his teacher as he walks in with a set of papers. "Okay. Since you're all in your final year of middle school, you all should fill out these career aptitude tests." When he got to the podium, the teacher threw the papers into the air with a confident smile. "But who am I kidding, you all want to become heroes." Everyone cheered for joy while using their powers outside of Izuku and Bakugo. "Oi, teach. Don't lump me in with these losers. They'll probably become sidekicks to some shitty D-listers." Bakugo states this with an arrogant smirk on his face as he began self-monologuing. Though he was arrogant, he had skills and talents to back it up, which made it more frustrating to those in the school when he boasted. His rant was about how he succeeded on passing all the mock tests and battles and will enter into UA, which was a school of only about a 3% success rate, and become the next top pro after All Might. Nobody objected to this, knowing he'd go after them for it, as well as if anyone could do this, it would be Bakugo. "Oh yeah, you're trying to get into UA as well, Midoriya." Everyone immediately turned to Izuku and began busting out laughing. "Ahaha, you serious? Izuku Midoriya is trying to get into UA. He's gonna get creamed the second he even tries it. What a loser." Everyone kept saying these words to Izuku, with him unfortunately being reminded how below them he was. Bakugo stormed at Izuku's desk to send an explosion and send the green-haired boy back. "You think you're good enough to take the entrance exam? You'll die the moment the test starts. Forget these other extras, you're below even them, you quirkless piece of shit." Izuku couldn't form any words, but deep down inside of him, he felt a rage unlike anything he ever felt before. This rage seemed to feed off of negative emotions. Before he could even retort, the teacher interrupted. "Bakugo, sit down. I don't want to give my favorite student any negative marks before you take the entrance exam." With just that sentence, Izuku grew a deep resentment. It wasn't until he remembered his late mother's words that subsided the rage. Before he did though, his field of vision began to blur a little before turning back to normal. The heck was that? It almost looked like glitching in a hacked video game. Later that day. As the day ended, Izuku began packing his things up to go home. When he was to reach for his notebook, it was grabbed by Bakugo, who held a notably angered face. "We ain't finished here yet, Deku. Hachan. Please give it back." Bakugo took one stare at the book to see it was a hero analysis notebook that Izuku regularly worked on in his spare time. They weren't anything special, only some fanboy hero notebook, but they were something to keep Izuku happy. He slowly went to hand it to Izuku before pulling it back and setting off an explosion to damage it and throw it out a window. That's so mean. Listen up, nerd. Pull your request for UA out. You're only going to get hurt if you do, and it's not worth it for a quirkless loser to hold out on a false belief that he'll be a hero. Izuku understood this was probably true, but still at least wanted to try to fulfill the hopes that he had. Then again, there is a way to get a quirk. Take a swan dive off the roof and hope for a quirk in your next life. Bakugo laughed at this for Izuku to look his way in anger. "What? Got something to say?" The ash blonde stared at Izuku, prepared to fight with his will to fizzling out as quickly as it came. "That's what I thought. Now defeated and hurt, Izuku decided to walk out and head towards where his book fell. The damage done to it made a large amount of the book not legible as well as being thrown in a koi pond, making it worse. Izuku still picked it up and was prepared to assess the damage and fix it at his home. In hopes to lighten his mood a bit, he decided to go the long way around and pass two women. One was a woman with a pale complexion that almost looked ghostly wearing a purple kimono, and the other was a girl that wore a UA uniform. Kizuna. The woman stopped to stare at Izuku, who was in space enough where he didn't acknowledge it. What's wrong? I don't know. I just suddenly felt an ominous feeling from that boy. Knowing to trust her instincts, she turns to her friend. I have an inkling that something is wrong. I'm sorry I can't return home with you. Do what you gotta do, Glass. Just tell me if you're falling for this boy later, okay? The woman known as Glass immediately went red before walking away. Something did seem off with that kid. I wonder what his story is. As this happened, Izuku passed under an overpass, still depressed about what Bakugo had done. Come on, Izuku. Remember what your mom said. He began pumping his fist into the air with some motivation. You can be a hero. Just believe in yourself. Well, isn't this a surprise? A meat sack that I can use to escape that blonde bastard. Izuku slowly turned around in fear to see a being made entirely of sludge come out of the sewers. You helped me out, kid. Now just give me your body and nobody has to get hurt. The villain lunged at Izuku for him to try and get away with it being far too powerful for him to manage. I gotta say though, kid. You're a real lifesaver for doing this for me. The situation was turning bad with Glass arriving at the scene. This isn't good. She pulled out two fans with a strange gem inside the center of it and held them, with one pointing at the sludge villain and the other's tip resting on top of it. Tortoiseshell. Before she could attack, the manhole cover that the sludge villain came out of burst open to reveal a man with blonde hair and a towering bulk figure. Goodness. It seems it took me longer to maneuver the city's sewage system than I initially planned. Glass lowered her fans and began walking away, believing the job could be handled. If that fool is here, then the situation should contain itself. She felt a bit of wind pressure from an attack, happened to smirk, knowing she wasn't needed anymore. I suppose the ominous feeling was that villain. Glass continued her walk away with some content. The situation resolved itself to feel no fault, leaving All Might to handle it. However, there was still this insatiable feeling in the back of her mind. Why do I still feel this odd sense of danger? Her judgment wasn't completely sharp, but without second thoughts her instincts pointed her towards where she needed to be. Hey Glassy. Glass came out of her train of thought to see a man with red hair pulled back, wielding a massive scythe and a tattoo on his arm, with a woman that has long blue hair braided with a band over her head. Kizuna said you had some kind of feeling for a kid. Should we be worried you're cheating on her? Lark. Please don't say unnecessary things. Glass glared at the retard called Lark before explaining what she noticed. I merely felt an unsettling disturbance from a boy that I couldn't understand. As such, I followed him and discovered him being attacked. Before I could do anything, the captain of the Musclehead Club came out of the sewer and handled it. I thought he was fine and left him, but this inkling I'm feeling isn't going away. Hey. Things'll probably work out. As you said. All Might came, so he's probably being a fanboy about him now, like most kids his age. Lark started laughing this off before a strange dark horror was felt. Glass. You feel that, don't you? Feels like when the kiddo lets that shield go. If it's corresponding with the feeling I felt before, this won't end well. The three ran as fast as they could to the source of the sinister presence to see an explosion. I should have stayed to make sure everything is okay. Why did I assume things would be alright? But All Might and Izuku. After clinging on to All Might for dear life, Izuku felt his life flash before his eyes until they landed, which made All Might scold the young man for his reckless action. I'm sorry young man, I must be off crap, he said internally as his time limit had reached its end. I'm sorry All Might, but ever since I was a kid all I ever dreamed of was saving people with a large smile. I have to know, can a quirkless person like me ever hope to be like you one day? Upon opening his eyes, there standing before him was a skeleton man who appeared to have one foot in the grave. Sorry kid, but being a hero without a quirk is impossible, although I do admire your drive. My advice to you is be realistic and climb for an achievable dream, All Might said before leaving Izuku on his own on top of a building. Little did the number one hero realize the young man was on his knees as anguish. Hatred and rage built up within him as he began to see his vision distort and show what looked like glitches on a screen. A dark and viscous smoke poured out of Izuku's hands to shroud everything around him. Why can't I be born with a quirk? Why can't I have anything positive in my life? Why does everything bad that can happen to me happen? A strange caption came in front of Izuku's field of vision, speaking a simple question in an ominous form. Do you seek power? In the blind rage Izuku was in, he shouted as loud as he could to the sky above him his deepest desire. Yes, I want power, I want that which should have been mine from birth. Her series unlocked. An extreme amount of rage and anger swelled in his mind, blinding Izuku and showing him nothing but an eternal darkness, lit only by fire coming off of him. Power, I want power. Power to burn now. Chapter 2 Cardinal Heroes. Lark, Glass and Therese came to the scene of the explosion to notice several people gathered around. Excuse us. Pardon us. Pro heroes. Coming through. They made their way up to the front to see a giant villain made of sludge attacking everyone with a kid in his possession. Hey Glassy. Is that the kid you saw before? No. The one before had green hair. He has ash blonde hair. Glass grit her teeth in irritation knowing something went wrong. That idiot had to have lost the villain. I can't think of a better reason why he's out and about. Should we interfere? Teresa asked with Lark on the fence. I'm not one for stealing someone else's thunder and to be honest, I'd rather not rock a boat while we're here. The villain kept everyone back with the boy's quirk for Lark to be somewhat irritated. These pathetic people call themselves heroes and yet they refuse to do a damn thing. How pathetic. They bring quite a bit of shame to being dubbed heroes. Glass felt a great deal of irritation seeing nobody at least stand up and try to do anything worthwhile to help. I hate to say it, but we might have to step in. Damn it. This is so not what I like to do as the hero. Lark began pulling his side which was transformed into a smaller form for somewhat obvious reasons of trying not to stand out before noticing something walking towards the sludge villain. Wait, is that a kid? Everyone turned to see Izuku with his hair covering his eyes walking calmly up to the villain. What the hell are you doing here, punk? Get out of my way. The sludge villain pulled his tendril back and prepared to attack Izuku. Several pros began panicking and running to try and get him to safety to only see him get thrown into the wall of a building. Ambrai out of nowhere, the sludge villain began screaming in pain as he began to catch fire. What the? The kid was thrown into the wall, but the sludge guy is hurt. How does that even make sense? I have a hunch, but it's not a good one if it's true. Glass stared back where Izuku was flung to see him walk out. His fists were lit on fire with a strange ominous pair of gauntlets covering them. I should have figured that Sinister Sense was a curse series. But how did this boy unlock something only a cardinal or vassal weapon holder can use? Burn. Izuku began speaking while walking towards the sludge villain. Burn you can all his eyes showed to reveal a red glow to them as he smiled. Burn he lunged at the villain with his hands holding the creature. In an attempt to escape as quickly as possible, the villain let go of his captive to reveal it was Bakugo. As such, he watched as Izuku held onto the sludge villain with a maniacal look on his face. Everything and everyone, it can all burn, this world it can burn. Somebody help me, the sludge villain shouted as he was covered in pitch black fire. Those that watched and fearfully pulled out their phones, recorded a scene to reveal the true madness of Izuku Midoriya. His wrath on full display for the world to fear. Lark. Stop him. Glass spoke quickly for the scythe wielder to jump forward as fast as he could to knock Izuku out and stop him. Oopsie daisy. Sorry, kiddo. Had to do it. Lark glanced down at Izuku's hands as his gauntlet began transforming into a smaller type of gauntlet that looked similar to a silver type of fingerless glove. Guess this kid is the same as the kiddos and the little miss's weapon. Hey you, the pro hero. Death Arms came towards Lark somewhat irritated. Who the heck are you? Relax, buddy. I'm a pro. I'm handling this kid going forward since he's not gonna be able to be looked over as well in anyone else's hands. Lark went near the crowd to leave alongside Teresa and Glass towards their home. Half an hour later. Slowly waking up from his abrupt knockout, Izuku slowly opened his eyes to see the ceiling of what looked like a building. What happened? I see you're awake, kiddo. Lark bent over to be in front of Izuku's field of vision to somewhat irritate him. What's with the scowl? Who are you and what did you do to me? Well, that's a little abrupt. Can't you at least say hello and thank me for helping you out? Lark. He's probably just as confused as we are. Teresa tried to downplay the situation and try to get everyone on track. Izuku sat up from his resting spot to reveal to himself he's in a home and sleeping on a couch. I'm sorry for my friend. He means well, but sometimes can be a little overbearing. My name is Teresa Alexandrite. The person beside you is Lark Berg. Dust. Lark's fine for introductions, kiddo. Izuku stared at Lark for a few moments before responding with his own name. Izuku Midoriya. Now if you'll excuse me, I have some things to do. As he started getting up, Izuku took note of the gauntlets on his hands. The hell are these? He immediately tried pulling them off to no avail. It was almost like they were glued to his hands and impossible to remove. What the hell are these things? I know they're there, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable. That is a cardinal weapon. Lark pointed this out for Izuku to blankly stare at him. You're probably not sure what's going on, so let me explain. Cardinal weapons are one of 4 legendary weapons. In times of great strife, the 4 heroes will take these weapons to arms and combat the forces that wish to destroy their world. In short, you're one of the 4 from this world. Izuku stared at Lark as if he was insane before bluntly stating the obvious. If they're so special, why didn't I hear of them till now? Because all four were believed to be lost in this world. Glass came from another room with Kizuna behind her. From the intelligence we were able to gather with a vassal weapon holder of this world, the cardinal weapons were deemed lost to time. To help this world, they manifested in people as a form of quirk as you called it. This allowed the world to summon forth heroes with the souls of people from another world being placed into the unborn child's body. As a way to explain, you are a born hero ever since you took breath into this world. Sorry to break this to you, Miss Glass immediately bowed as a form of apology. Where are my manners? My name is Glass and you don't have to fear any of us. And I'm Kizuna Kazeyama. Hunting hero and second year of UA High. Izuku stared blankly at Kizuna, with the term Lullababa coming to mind with her stature. Is she one of your cardinal, whatever you call them, heroes too? Yes and no. Lark replied with a somewhat wishy-washy answer. She's a cardinal hero without a doubt, but not one of this world's. That doesn't make sense. Think of it like multiverses. The world we come from has the hunting hero as one of its four cardinal heroes. However, a gauntlet or fist hero isn't. Alright. Let's say I believe this madness. One flaw with your logic. I'm quirkless. As such, I don't have a quirk for this cardinal thing. Actually, you do. Not only that, but you unlocked a very bad series in your cardinal weapon. Kizuna walked over to sit in front of Izuku and explain. One of the things that makes cardinal weapons so powerful is their ability to grow in correspondence with the user. This could hypothetically be why you couldn't manifest a cardinal weapon yet, but I'm not 100% since you're the first hero of this world we've seen outside of the band and visor vassal weapon holders. What are vassal weapons, you may ask? Well, they're the same as our weapons, but their growth is limited and won't be able to match a cardinal weapon. Though they do have some errors with that, they have much fewer limitations. You're starting to lose me. Izuku stated for Kizuna to get back on topic. Anyway, one of the ways we grow is by unlocking certain weapon series. The information of that weapon is stored within our weapons, and it can transform depending on what we use. However, you unlocked what's called the Curse series. One of the most powerful and dangerous weapon series to ever be put in. Okay, so how did I unlock this? Izuku asked, still not getting where this pulls and why he was at the home. You must undergo hell. World-breaking misery that brings you so far to the point of taking your own life that your weapon tries to manifest something to comply with your mental state. As such, you have the Curse series. As the name says also, they are not good. An eyebrow was raised by Izuku before asking a little more. You know a lot about this type of weapon. Is it safe to say you've had one before? Yes. I unlocked the sloth hunting weapon. I'm a hesitant person and won't go to any length to try and do what has to be done, so I avoided using it after unlocking it the first time. But the effects of the curse still linger in me. I suffer forms of stasis because of this series where I can't move or respond at all. Though I never use it, the effects of unlocking it are still inside me. To make a long story short, kiddo. I knocked you out and brought you to our home. Whatever happened to you, we want to help. And why should I trust any of you? All this pain that I've suffered came from people that were supposed to be on my side, and look where it got me. I've done fine on my own for 4 years, and I'll do fine on my own going forward. The amount of anger in Izuku continued to pour out with everyone seeing a deep-rooted hatred in him. Teresa walked over behind Izuku and began hugging him. What the heck are you? Just calm yourself. In the name of Jules far and wide. My name is Teresa Alexandrite. I beg you, give me the chance to look at this being's life through his eyes and see what he has seen. Bejeweled sight. A strange spell came over Izuku with visions of his past coming to Teresa's mind. She felt nothing but misery for Izuku with his trip to the doctor, his mother's accident, Bakugo's claim for him to kill himself, and All Might's rejection feeling the most heartbreaking. A small tear came to her eye as she hugged Izuku closer to her. Midoriya. I'm so sorry you had to bear with all that. I hope you truly do find happiness in your life. She let go of him and walked back to where she was sitting. Anyway, kiddo. We should keep track of you. We're also willing to train you. To make things simple, we're unable to go home and stuck here for now. We were able to legalize ourselves as heroes in this world along with some other friends of ours, but this world needs its heroes to come back. As vassal weapon holders, me and Glassy are obligated to help the Cardinal Heroes how we can. So in exchange for letting us help you, we'll keep an eye on you and teach you everything we know. Sounds like a plan. Izuku stared at his hands before seeing a strange ping in his field of vision. When focusing on it, Izuku realized there was an ops menu on his screen. The heck just happened? I have some kind of help menu in my eyes. It's the way your cardinal weapon is presenting its skills. Think of it like your own personal stat board. So what do you say? Wanna learn from your big sis Kizuna? Izuku pinched the bridge of his nose before responding. Fair enough. But what are the rules of cardinal weapons? Well, first off, cardinal heroes need to be within a 10-meter distance between each other or they won't get EXP. A vassal weapon holder is fine as long as it's only one. Any more and it will hinder growth. That explains this warning bar I'm getting. Warning. Cardinal heroes cannot form a party together. Doing so will hinder growth. Anything else? You can't pick up anything else other than your type of weapon. If you do, you'll get a really bad shock. But if you're not using it for combat purposes, you're fine. Good to know in advance. Any pros to these cons you're giving me? You're also immune to any form of enslavement or manipulation where you willingly don't have a sense of free will. So as an example, you can't be mind controlled by a quirk, but someone can manipulate you through words only since you're freely following them. I'm not sure if that'll come in handy, but I'll keep that in mind going forward. Izuku stared down at his ops menu before looking at his stats. Izuku Midoriya. Hero. Level 1. Fist. Small gauntlets. HP. 56. SP. 22. AC. 9. F. 4. SPD. 7. SP. AC. 4. SP. Def. 3. So this is like an RPG. He kept looking to find a skill tree menu with almost nothing unlocked. He glanced at the only other thing unlocked for it to be the curse series to read the description. A weapon of great power and great cost. This weapon should never be touched. Well, that explains why it's so ominous to you all and why you don't want to use it. That phrase would make anyone fear it. Stats are amazing though. Izuku sat there before getting a notice to join Lark's party. I sent you an invite request. With this, we can start leveling you up quickly. How's about it, kiddo? Izuku smirked before responding. Fine by me, old man. Hey, I'm not that old. Stop calling me a kiddo and we might have a deal there. Izuku agreed to the invite while everyone laughed at Lark's insulting nickname, with nobody in particular blaming Izuku for the remark. In an unknown location. Deep in a dark room of a storage area labeled Secret Wars, an extremely large Hergless is shown with two people standing in front of it. How long until the next wave? A male voice asked as a female figure stared intently at the Hergless. About a month. Give or take some hours. Should we ask for the Cardinal Heroes from Melrimer to join this time, or keep with Kizuna's group? I say ask for some assistance from Nafumi's party. From what the news showed, Kizuna's group has their hands full. To think we'd finally have a Cardinal Hero born into this world. Amazing how long he went under the radar. That's our world for you. Facing scrutiny at its core. Thank you, Quirks. The man spoke sarcastically as the Hergless sand continued to fall with more sand being in the bottom half than the top. We should start getting some heroes that can face the waves ready. Agreed. As Izuku was still taking in all the information of his cardinal weapon, he asked about how to grow, but neither Lark or Teresa had any ideas of what requirements the Fist hero needed to meet until they unlocked his series. It wasn't until a massive pop-up window appeared in front of Izuku that gave him a list of every series that he was able to unlock. As he read every category one by one and what it does. He did know one thing however, his work going forward was cut out for him. Chapter 3 Waves of Calamity. Alright. Let's try this one last time. Glass stated to Izuku as she and him stood on a garbage-ridden beach. Right. Airstrike Fist. Izuku activated a skill he recently obtained and sent it at the vassal fan wielder who merely deflected it. Relax your arms and aim for the center of my body. That's how you'll be able to get someone off guard. Do it again. For the last 2 weeks, Izuku has been fighting as hard as he could to get some form of progression to his levels and has made some success. With some advice on how to start unlocking new gauntlets, the group had been feeding materials of everything they could into Izuku's weapon to unlock some higher grade gear, but the more useful ones weren't able to be used yet for Izuku to focus on leveling up now. One of his more recent skills he obtained and his most useful weapon would be the rope gauntlet. Izuku Midoriya. Hero. Level 8. Weapon. Rope gauntlet. HP. 208 plus 20. SP. 162 plus 9. AC. 98. F. 34 plus 6. SPD. 91 plus 8. SP AC. 34. SP Def. 32 plus 2. Equip effect. Rope grappling. Set effect. Airstrike Fist. We should end it here for today. Going any farther would be counterproductive to what we desire. Glass started to walk towards Izuku who was struggling to stand. His hands had blisters on them since he had to now focus on fighting with his hands. We should stop by a pharmaceutical shop to get something to help you heal up. We need you in top shape for the wave in 10 days. Wave? Izuku asked, not hearing this before. Lark never told you about the waves of catastrophe. Izuku shook his head. No. Damn that man. Anyway, allow me to explain. The waves of catastrophe are an unknown phenomenon that happen when two worlds collide with one another. The cracks in the space-time appear where the worlds overlap and interdimensional monsters come out of them. If they are not stopped, the waves will destroy the world we're in. The only way to stop them is by defeating the boss monster in the wave. So akin to like a raid battle with a boss facing you at the end. Practically speaking, yes. We want you to participate because of something we discovered. If a cardinal hero of the world participates in a wave, the time between that wave and the next becomes longer. For now, the time span between the waves is 3 months. Though this may seem like a decent amount, the level of threats progress where those 3 months will naturally degrade those who partake in it. Not only that, but this is a great opportunity to collect drop items that you cannot normally and unlock unique weapons. But to make sure you survive, you need to increase your level, but we can't do that if you're overworked, so make sure to rest and eat properly. So in short, this is another thing I have to worry about. Great. Izuku felt a little overwhelmed and was easily shown to glass. Granted, who wouldn't be if they were deemed normal until a few weeks ago when they lost their mind to a power they never knew they had and was told to fight something that threatens the world. Midoriya. Do not think you're facing this alone. There are others willing to help you. Not only us, but others in our agency. Izuku nodded before the two began walking off the beach and towards their home. Oh yeah, nobody ever told me about the agency you all are part of. The agency is called Seattle. It's an international one. Though we are legally heroes in this world, the agency is a facade for us to handle our work. Though they do happen in Japan, they happen in other places as well. Because of this we've split our factions up into 5 groups. The first is our group. We govern Japan and anything out in the ocean between this country and the States. The second handles Asia. This is handled mostly by the sword hero from another world Rin and Eclair. Europe is handled by the spear hero Motoyasu. I was told because of the Lust Curse series, he doesn't have many female allies if any at all. I'm not sure about the details, but it's something about pigs and a former party member. Africa and Australia's waves are handled by the bow hero Itsuki and the claw vassal weapon holder from another world, Rishia. From what I'm told, they have a decent trust between them. Finally, the Americas are handled by our largest group led by the shield hero Nafumi. He also is the head of the agency since he has experience handling some nitty-gritty things where he's originally from. His group consists of many major names in the countries governing it, such as the Heavenly Bird Hero of Canada, Philo, the Katana Hero of South America, Raccoon, and of course we have the Blind White Tiger Hero, Sense, and the Orca Hero, Trident. Stopping to acknowledge this, Izuku felt mild shock. I'm getting help from the largest agency in the world. As I said, the agency is a facade. But this should help you understand you're not doing this alone. Everyone is fighting as hard as they can to beat the waves, and soon you'll help too. You're not going to be ready when the wave comes no matter how hard you try, but the more you prepare, the less danger you'll be in. This is a learning experience, not a way for you to test your mettle yet. Though you aren't nearly as powerful as the rest of us, you're trying and that makes a difference. Thanks. Izuku looked away and blushed a little at the comment. Come on. There's another stop we need to make before going home. He followed Glass as they went through the city towards their destination. Half-hour later. Upon arrival, Izuku realized he was standing in front of the Seattle Japan branch agency. He marveled at the sight before being brought in. When inside, Glass walked towards a room off to the side with Izuku following her. She used a key to open the door before pushing a switch up to reveal a storage area filled with small Herglasses with blue sand in them. You wanted to show me you have a collection of Herglasses. Everyone has a hobby. They aren't a hobby. These are dragon Herglasses. Well, miniature copies to be more precise. Their function is to tell us when the waves come. Izuku glanced at one with a writing under it, saying Germany, and noticed it was about to have all the sand fall out. Try not to focus on that one or else your cardinal weapon will instinctively go to that location when the wave starts. Izuku backed off as the sand hit the bottom with the Herglass glowing. So you said these were copies. Why have copies of the original? Because the original is far too big. To give an example of how large it is, it could easily be 5 times your height and about 10 times your width. As such, any form of transporting them is not possible. The smaller ones, however, work in the same way since they are exact replicas in smaller forms of the real. There are minor flaws with them, but they work the same way. Such as: first, a class upgrade ceremony can't be held with these. Consider it similar to a grade upgrade in a game if you wish to compare it to something or an advancement of a skill tree. Since your world doesn't need them, it's for the most part a dead ritual. The second, and this one is more vital, we cannot transport to these mini Herglasses location. As you progress, you'll learn a transport ability. But as a drawback, you can only transport to a dragon Herglass. It's not a terrible thing for fast travel, but you'd need to have visited the location of the dragon Herglass first and foremost before this can even work. So if I'm only working in Japan, this shouldn't be a problem. Not exactly. As you get stronger, you will have to go to other countries to fight the waves primarily to slow down the timer. The more waves you partake in, the more the world can recover from them and prepare for the next. Glass motioned Izuku towards an hourglass that said Japan under it. Izuku focused on it with the gems in the back of his hands beginning to glow. They immediately shot a small beam of light at the hourglass and had it glow. When it dulled down, a timer showed on his field of vision above him saying 9 days. 22 hours. 53 minutes. 12 seconds and continually counting down. So if I have to handle the waves in other countries, will I have to learn their language? Verbally, no. Your weapon comes with an auto-translate function where any language you hear will go to your base language and your language will translate to that language when speaking to someone. This doesn't involve any written language, so it might be best to try and learn it a little if you're going to a country in particular or at least have a translation book on hand. Seems simple enough to keep in mind. Do we need to do anything else? No. Let's head home. The two started walking out with Glass saying one final thing. Lark also planned to give you a recommendation to UA. Since Kizuna goes there, it would make some sense for you both to be there. Less complication that way when a wave does happen. Actually, do you mind if I try and pass the regular exams on my own? I know it's going to make things harder for me, but if I'm going to be a Cardinal Hero, then that means I need to prove I'm not a liability. As such, I need to show I can handle some things on my own that are within my power to do. I personally hate getting help from other people. It feels somewhat embarrassing since it's saying I know I can't do this alone and it makes me think I'm showing some weakness. The least I can do to stop feeling like I'm taking advantage of you is do some things on my own. Glass was somewhat shocked by this conviction and mildly impressed. Seems you, Kizuna and Naofumi are more alike than you think. Must be that resolve you both have to do the right thing without compensation. Maybe. Meanwhile, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. A single ship had begun making a journey towards Japan with a flag holding a shield on the top. Hey, things might get bumpy. You're probably better to go below deck. The helmsman states to a person with long dark hair and light blue clothing. On her back, she had a trident rested as well with a strange feeling of her having similarities to an orca. It's fine. I don't mind. I actually grew up as a fisherman, so rough seas aren't a problem. Okay. So what's bringing you to Japan? Business or pleasure? Business and maybe a little bit of pleasure. Also, you have a whale coming on the left side of your boat. As the woman said this, a massive whale came out of the water to surprise the man. Holy crap, how'd you even know it was there, lady? Let's just say, I have an act for sonar. She smirked while sitting on a seat outside and enjoying the feel of the waves pushing the boat around somewhat. Under pressure. Izuku had realized that time was of the essence after seeing that Japan had 9 days before a wave of calamity struck. Glass had told him not to overwork himself, so he had pulled up his skill tree window to see whether or not there was a series he could possibly unlock that didn't cause him to overwork his body physically. He saw 2 series that looked interesting. The Pickaxe Gauntlet and Herbalist Gauntlet. When reading the locked description of the Herbalist Gauntlet, it gave him an idea that maybe studying the herbs could help with making highly effective medicine that could rival Recovery Girl's quirk. The Pickaxe Gauntlet on the other hand had a rather interesting attack called Double Up. Using this, the next attack would be double the damage, but its cooldown would be over a minute. Damn it. This tells me some abilities it can use, but not how to unlock the series itself. Maybe if I keep feeding different materials to my weapon it could eventually. Izuku was pulled out of his thoughts by his teacher, flicking him with his quirk. Pay attention, Mr. Midoriya. Izuku was scolded by his teacher who favored everyone else, but it angered him seeing that others weren't paying attention to the boring lecture, but he was called out due to favoritism. A bit of the cursed series almost sprang out, but he withheld his tongue, knowing it wouldn't be good for anyone if he tried anything. What really angered Izuku though was the fact he still was keeping his cardinal weapon a secret and what he was doing. From what he was told by Lark, even if he was able to destroy every monster in the wave single-handedly, none of what he'd do would ever be found out by the common people. Hey Midoriya. You need something to keep you focused. Maybe a focusing quirk. One of his classmates made a snobby comment for Izuku to focus back on the lecture, with no intent to show any response. I wonder what I can do to help train more for the waves. Also, what the other Cardinal Heroes besides Kizuna did for getting stronger. Later that afternoon. Izuku began walking out of school to be met by a couple of his classmates. Hey Midoriya. You hanging out with your friends? They started laughing with Izuku not paying as much attention. Hey, I got a proposition for you. Help me practice my quirk on you, and I'll hang out with you. Izuku wanted to punch them but didn't for the third to now get annoyed and grab him by his shirt collar. Say something, damn it. Now that's rude. What did he ever do to deserve being harassed by you boys? The sound of a woman turned everyone towards the entrance to see a woman wearing basically what looked like a light blue swimsuit with extremely long black hair. "Do you mind letting him go? I have some business with Mr. Midoriya." "Sorry lady, but who the hell are you?" "Oh, where are my manners? I must have forgotten to say because I'm in the presence of such rude and disobedient children. My name is Sadina. I'm actually a friend of Mr. Midoriya's guardians at the moment and I'd be very appreciative if you let him go." The guys looked at Isaac for a second before looking back at the woman. "No offense, lady, but just leave him to us. We'll give you this quirkless loser when we're done with him." "Oh, then I suppose you leave me no choice." Sadina moved so fast that none of the guys could see her as she knocked them all to the ground and pulled her trident on her back out to hold it to the one holding Izuku up to his neck. "I guess you don't know how to be nice to a pro hero." "Holy crap. I didn't realize it at first. She's the Orca hero. Trident. Wait, what's a big shot hero like her doing with a loser like Midoriya?" "Midoriya. I believe we should be on our way." Sadina gave Izuku a hand up before leading the way out of the school. Once they got a distance away, Sadina began speaking up to introduce herself a little better. "Sorry I couldn't say this in a more formal fashion, but my name is Sadina. Nafumi asked me to come to Japan to help with the wave that is coming and get some form of assessment on you." "Nafumi. He's the leader of the agency you all are part of, right?" Izuku asked, making sure he remembered the person vividly enough. "Yes. Lark and Teresa gave me some information on you as well. To be fair, I give you respect for not reacting. If it was me, I may have shown them why they should back off like I did before. That's just a normal thing. Don't think it's anything special." Izuku continued to walk down the sidewalk with Sadina for her to look towards the green-haired boy with some worry. "You seem to face a large amount of scrutiny. Is there a reason?" "Just quirkless issues that turned out to be not so true." Sadina noticed a scowl on Izuku's face to wonder how much of what Teresa said about him was true. "Midoriya. Do you mind if I call you Izuku?" "Go right ahead." "Very well then, Izuku. What do you do for fun?" Izuku raised an eyebrow to the question. "Why do you ask?" "Because I'm new around here and I'd like a tour with something fun to do. I've been on a ship for half a day and I'd like something entertaining to do." Izuku shrugged at this before leading the way in front of Sadina. "Tell me a little about yourself so I know what I can offer that would be up your alley." "Well then. First, I'm what's called a demihuman. In the world I'm from, they're a race of people that hold animalistic appearance but are still humanoid. I'm a killer whale type of demihuman. So you're a type of orca. You know, I can see that with the color scheme. But you don't really have any appearances of a whale. That's more because I have the ability to look more humanoid if need be. I can also reverse it for my animalistic features to take the lead." "That sounds interesting. So she'd look like Gang Orca but with more killer whale features." Izuku mentally thought this as Sadina continued. "For the most part, I'm not particular in things. I did originally fish when I was in my homeworld as a way to gain food and revenue. Well, that kinda throws out an idea to do something you'd like." "Why?" "Because the only beach nearby is an illegal dumping site." Izuku began walking near Dagaba Municipal Beach to show the scene. Sadina felt horrible seeing such garbage piled on a beach. "This is horrible. How could this happen?" "This is unfortunately what happens when the world relies on heroes to handle problems. Most don't want to do good things that would help others because it's not their problem." Thanks to the currents of the sea, the larger debris started appearing on the coastline. When that happened, people began dumping garbage here until it got to this. Looking around at the horrid mess on the beach, Sadina noticed a small clearing in the center of the beach near the stairs. "Why is there an opening?" "Lass and I are using this place as a training ground. Nobody bothers to pay attention to here, so it's an easy spot to try out some skills and spar." The beach hurt the Orca demihuman seeing, but there was a bit of dissatisfaction in Izuku's face to have her get an idea. "Any chance you'd want to try cleaning it up?" Think about it. It's good training and it gives you a sense of purpose. You probably saw what this place looked like without the garbage and want to see it again. You know something, I'll actually take you up on that offer. But you do know that this is a lot for just 2 people, right?" Izuku reassured the Orca demihuman for her to smile. "Don't think just because I'm a woman I'm weak. I'm notably strong and reliable. Most people even call me Big Sis Sadina." This comment made Izuku raise an eyebrow before being held close to Sadina's chest. "Why don't you call me your big sis too?" The act made Izuku extremely uncomfortable for him to pull away with his face red as a tomato. I think we should start working on this now." He ran down the steps and began working as fast as he could with Sadina smirking at what she accomplished. "I guess what Teresa said about you is right. You're a boy that's struggling. Then again, you're doing something that most in your situation would get a big ego or refuse outright just to do. It's admirable and kinda cute in a way." She walked down to the beach and found an old washing machine that was starting to get holes from rust. She picked it up with little effort to amaze Izuku before carrying it off towards the curb for the garbage men to take it. "Just how strong is this woman?" Izuku internally shouted this as he was trying to pull a car motor out of the sand and only able to slide it somewhat. Chapter 4 Beach Cleanup. After Sadina had brought up the idea of cleaning the beaches, training, Izuku thought about the benefits of doing so, which was bringing back something to the community that could also boost foot traffic to the businesses that have suffered revenue losses due to the illegal dump site. The final benefit would be that he'd pack on some muscle due to lifting and using every part of his body to move trash. While continuing his training with Glass, he began to alternate days with Sadina, so one day was combat training, the day after had been muscle building, thanks to beach cleanup. In a matter of a week, they were able to get a notable amount done with both seeing an open slot going from the stairs to the shore. "Well, we got to the ocean. That now gives us something to be proud of, I guess." Izuku wasn't paying as much attention as he found an old pickaxe on the beach and began checking his stats. In a strange turn of events, he was able to gain XP from the cleanup. Not much, but combined with Glass's training, he was able to buff up 2 levels. Izuku Midoriya. Hero. Level 10. Weapon. Pickaxe Gauntlet. HP. 232, plus 25. SP. 180, plus 20. AC. 106, plus 15. F. 40. SPD. 98. SP AC. 40 plus 10. SP Def. 38. Equip Effect. Mining plus small. Set Effect. Morale Boost. This is a weird set effect. Morale Boost. What does it say about it? Sadina asked for Izuku to look at the content. It says that once activated, I can enhance myself for a minute to have a temporary boost in attack. If I wanted to enhance someone else, the time span drops to 30 seconds. Cooldown time is 2 minutes though. That could be a problem if it's a drawn-out fight. But if you're facing a wave boss, 30 seconds can be a very long time. When I was facing an opponent in a Colosseum, they had a set effect that slowed my speed down for 30 seconds. It felt like I was waiting an hour. Mentioning the waves made Izuku somewhat shut down, as he was reminded that the wave was only about a day away. "From the time we're seeing, you may want to call out of school tomorrow. It's going to hit around noon." "I know. Is school any better for you?" "No. Do you at least have anyone you can talk to?" "Not really." The single phrase answers were somewhat irritating for Sadina, for her to finally point out what was on her mind. "Izuku. Do you feel forced to do this? I mean, fighting the waves are important, but you're still young to deal with them, and it could be dangerous." "Do I even have a choice in this matter?" Izuku raised his voice a little, getting somewhat angry at the question. "I'm this Cardinal Hero that has to fight world-destroying waves that bring monsters into the world that make me have to train my ass off every day. Not even a month ago, I was a weakling whose main objective was not to rock any boats, so it didn't ruin my chances at going to UA. Yet even though now I have this all-powerful quirk, I'm keeping it a secret, as well as the fact I'm doing something most heroes wouldn't have the balls to do even if I do succeed and fend off the waves. Nothing changes. Everyone is gonna look at me like I'm some damned plague and treat me like the black sheep, so you tell me if I have a choice of being forced into this, as you said." Sadina was mildly shocked how much Izuku ranted, but knew he was most likely feeling obligated and frustrated at what he had to do. "To be fair, I think you're handling this far better than most." "Then why am I still frustrated as hell? If I'm being honest, I would have said screw this world and let it burn if I was in your shoes." Izuku was about to ask what Sadina knew before she cut him off. "Teresa told all of us what she saw in your memories. If it was up to me and I had gone through the things you had, I would look Lark square in the face and say screw you. This isn't my problem. But you're trying. You're getting frustrated because you're working as hard as you can to bridge the gap between yours and our levels. What you're trying to accomplish isn't easy, but this is what you can do, and you're trying to avoid complaining. We aren't trying to push this burden onto you all at once because we know what you're facing. Keep in mind. You're not alone. You have people wanting to help. People that are helping. People supporting you. And it's because of this support that you can breathe easier in the wave. Even though you may not see a difference in the status quo, it makes a difference to us. I don't know if that's enough, but maybe it's some solidarity." Knowing this was a little better for Izuku, but the fact he was somewhat thrown into this still didn't make things much better. "Thanks. It doesn't really change the fact I have to do this, but it does make me feel a little better knowing I'm not alone. To be fair, you aren't the only Cardinal Hero that's faced scrutiny with the world they were supposed to protect. In my original world, a Cardinal Hero was summoned to a country that hated and ridiculed him. The only reason he was brought there was to avoid him being summoned to another country and keep him weak. He was framed, ridiculed and hated by the people, and worked from the absolute bottom. Because he couldn't fight on his own in these accusations, this hero hated the world he was summoned to and wanted nothing more than for it to burn. It's not hard to believe he awakened the same curse series you did. Kinda figured he'd have if everything played out the way you said. But even in a cruel world such as this, he found people who stood beside him. Genuine friends and loved ones. And one by one, this hero proved those that doubted him wrong and fought to save the world he so desperately hated. What I'm trying to say is, just keep trying. Do your best and never feel ashamed for who you are. That's how you succumb to despair. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind. Izuku smiled happily at this before gaining a shocked look from Sedina. What? You smiled, a genuine smile. Is it that shocking? You haven't smiled an honest one since I've met you. It's very lovely. Izuku blushed a little at this with Sedina wrapping her arms around his head and pushing the young Cardinal Quirk user into her chest. I will say, this did work better than Lark's decision on how to help you calm down. What did he say as a suggestion? Suggesting that one of us take your chastity. Oh. Why did I somewhat see that as his response? Izuku somewhat scowled at the thought of Lark's idea before finally being let go by Sedina. Thank you. I do feel a little better after hearing this. No trouble. Oh, you might also want to be careful coming home. Kizuna said she wanted to try and perk you up as well. Something about wearing a swimsuit or something. Why are most of your first attempts to cheer me up and make me more relaxed something hexual? I thought boys liked these kinds of things at your age. Sedina smiled at her logic before standing up. Anyway, let's get going. Teresa is still worried I may use Lark's method of making you happy. Wouldn't want to come late in the day and make her believe we did something preferably we shouldn't. Yeah. Izuku got up for both to start heading towards their home with a little more optimism in their situations. As they passed though, Aridid came out of an alley to notice both passing by with a smirk on her lips. So he's the hero of this world. I wonder how I should handle this. She laughed a little to herself before a portal opened behind her to head in and go towards an unknown location. Half-hour later. Izuku, please tell me nobody had done what Lark suggested for us to do. Teresa came over and held Izuku's shoulders in fear for him. Relax. We only cleaned the beach. Nothing to worry about. Oh man. And I was hoping to enjoy a beer with him while hearing him explain what it's like to sleep under a demihuman. Lark immediately began laughing before having an elbow to the gut by Teresa. Alright. I'll stop. Hey, Izuku, Kizuna shouted from the hall for it to get everyone's attention. When they turned, they were met with Kizuna in a black two-piece swimsuit, smiling with Glass beside her in a similar one with a dark purple color to it looking extremely out of place. What'd you think? This perks you up a bit. A calm stare was given to the two with Kizuna waiting for an answer. Say something, don't just look at me like I'm some kind of creep. Izuku turned to Lark and gave him a blank stare. I blame you for thinking of the idea you did and giving a corrupted thought of helping to Glass and Kizuna. He turned to both girls while smiling at them. You both also look very nice. Very cute, but you didn't have to do this. He walked past them with a small blush being seen by both women to have Glass cover her face with her fan. To be honest, I didn't expect you to play both sides, Glassy. Ha ha ha. Oof. Lark was once again hit in his stomach but by Glass this time for her to walk back into her room. She sure left in a hurry. Sedina laughed a little at this while standing beside Teresa, somewhat worried for Izuku since she was arguably one of the only people with a voice of reason for him. Why can't we be normal people? Chapter 5 Catastrophe Strikes. On this very day Izuku woke up and felt something different in the air. He felt as if things were going to go wrong. It wasn't until he heard frantic knocking when he opened the door. There stood Sedina, who appeared to have rushed straight from somewhere. What's wrong, are you okay? After Sedina caught her breath, she spoke quickly to get Izuku's attention. Glass asked me to come get you. Come on, she said with a sense of urgency. Izuku knew something serious was up, so he quickly got ready and followed Sedina out to the living room area. There, everyone stood around the center of the room in a circle. About time, kiddo. You were about to sleep through the fun. Lark commented while smirking. What do you mean? Look at your timer. Izuku did as Glass said for it to read 10 minutes and some seconds before the wave. For some reason, the wave accelerated a few hours. We've had Sedina rush to get any and all medical supplies as well as gear for you. Gear? Sedina passed Izuku a set of clothes with the upper body being sleeveless with some armor over the torso area, along with a lower face covering and a hood. The pants were long with notable armor on them as a way to compensate for a fist fighter's less solid legs. The entire set held a dark green base and a lighter green secondary color. On top, Sedina had also given combat boots that were used for US military soldiers. Get ready as fast as you can and we'll make a game plan. Izuku ran to the bathroom and changed as quickly as he could. Once out, he stood beside Sedina and Glass as they continued with their meeting. Now that the kiddo's ready, let's go over how we're gonna tackle the wave. Wait, but I thought the waves came to random locations. You're right in thinking that, Izuku. However, we can't just jump headfirst into the wave here. We need a plan. Kizuna explained with Teresa going next. I can create a protective barrier around the area we are fighting so the world doesn't see. This'll also keep the monsters coming from the wave inside. Meanwhile, I'll try and keep her safe while also taking on any monsters myself while some heroes handle the ones she couldn't get. Lark swung his scythe on his shoulder while giving a smirk. Considering I'm the best at handling non-human monsters, I'll handle the wave with glass coming with me. Kizuna mentioned her role in this for her penguin Shikigami Chris to pop out and sit in her arms. Of course you're coming too, Chris. So what do me and Sadina do? We're going to be handling the monsters in the circle. Sadina answered Izuku while explaining. Even if the wave is defeated, the monsters are still problems. We'll handle them with the band and visor vassal heroes of this world, assisting in different areas. Kizuna and I shall assist when the boss is defeated to lower the time span we're there for. The longer this progresses, the more of a chance somebody finds out about us. Any last-minute thoughts before your first wave, kiddo? You only have a minute left. Izuku stared at the timer along with everyone else before a small panel appeared in front of him. I'm getting a quotation saying to collect drop items automatically from the wave. Should I? Yes. That saves you some effort. Sadina pointed this out for the final 10 seconds to come. Izuku braced himself. Once the timer hit 0, a cracking sound almost as if a glass window broke was heard with a strange light glowing around Izuku and everyone. Get ready, we'll be teleporting to the battlefield. Izuku saw a sudden flash of light before being teleported to a small forest with a somewhat ominous feel around everything. That was something. Kiddo. Up there. Lark motioned to where a crack in the sky was with what looked like monsters falling down. It looks beautiful but scary at the same time. Let's move. Now Kizuna took charge to run as fast as she could with Glass and Chris following her. Get in there, kiddo. Also, don't do anything stupid. Right. Izuku and Sadina ran towards the wave with Lark and Teresa looking around the area. Do it. Teresa pulled her band covering a jewel on her forehead off for her normally blue hair to turn ruby red to match her uncovered gem. In the name of jewels far and wide, I Teresa Alexandrite ask you to hear my plea. Encase my enemies in a veil of fire that burns any who touches it and protects that which I wish to. The jeweled firewall blue fire began covering everything around to make it almost impossible for anyone to see inside. Nice work, Teresa. But you missed a few. Lark mentioned to what looked like zombie soldiers coming towards them for Teresa to stare at him. I'm on it. But Izuku and Sadina. Amazing. To think Teresa could do such a powerful Izuku glanced at everyone's level for a moment to see they were all at least at level 200. How is that even possible? It's an added effect of the wave. If you have level growth with a world that's connected here, then you'll have that amount of levels added to your own. A swarm of abnormally large wasps came towards both Sadina and Izuku for them to stop and prepare to attack. Now it's time to see how you can handle yourself. These are interdimensional wasps. Right. Izuku stormed at the monsters with his right arm pulled back. Take this, he was able to connect with a wasp to have some confidence. Got one. Before he could have some form of confidence, the wasp was thrown back and not squashed to have several attack him. Damn it, airstrike fist. Izuku tried to attack multiple with one of his skills next for them to not do anything. Why aren't these things dying? He glanced at their levels on his screen to see that they were at least double his level to have swarms begin attacking him. This is bad. He began running as fast as he could with more monsters coming out of the forest. Sadina, help. Once Izuku shouted, a large amount of electricity came behind him to destroy all the wasps in one shot. Sorry if that was a little scary. I just wanted to see how you stood among them. She smiled at Izuku for him to feel somewhat irritated. Get back, her shout forced Izuku to jump away from a giant axe that was about to slam down on him. Looking at its source, the young Cardinal Quirk user noticed a massive hulking zombie with it at level 27. I'll destroy, you attract them. Right. Airstrike fist. Izuku punched the zombie in the face with his skill for it to hardly phase the monster and turn its attention to him. You want me? Come and get me, you stupid zombie. It raised its weapon again for Sadina to strike its head off with her weapon that was transformed into a harpoon. Alright. Looks like we're surrounded. The area around them began having swarms of monsters from the zombies to the wasps come at them, each varying from level 20 to level 29. Watch my back and I'll watch yours. But I can't destroy these things. How am I gonna be of help? Find a way. Sometimes it's not how many you can kill, but how you help those you're around. Sadina's weapon altered once again to have prongs on the sides of where the tip was. She blocked the attack and gave counter maneuvers to take down 5 zombies with hardly any effort. Unbelievable. Izuku pulled back with the monsters attempting to attack him. As they did, Izuku remembered a skill he had that he could use to at least give him a little more of an oomph in this fight. Holding the pickaxe gauntlet on, Izuku pulled his arms in before activating a skill. Morale boost. He increased his own strength temporarily to see one of the larger zombies coming up towards him. Airstrike fist. He attacked it with the zombie sliding back, taking whatever monsters were behind it back as well to make a hole. This hunt thrust. Sadina shot her harpoon at the monsters to completely obliterate all that were pushed back by Izuku's strike before the weapon naturally appeared back in her hands. Keep going. We have a lot more coming. Sadina shouted this while slashing away some wasps and going right for a zombie's head. Izuku got back in position before the sky began to return to a more normal color. What's happening? Izuna and Glass probably killed the boss monster. That doesn't change what we're doing here though. From what he could tell, Sadina was right since the stat boost they had was no longer present, along with the levels of the monsters going down about 5. Izuku tried again to kill some of the wasps for it to do more damage than before, but still had little effect to do any merit. Before it could attack though, the monsters were all destroyed in an instant by fan blades coming down from the sky, piercing them and ending the attack. Seems we're all cleaned up here. Glass spoke up for Sadina and Izuku to see her and Kizuna carrying what looked like a massive monster resembling a chimera. The other vassal weapon holders mentioned that they handled their own areas, leaving yours as the only one. Awesome. We were able to wrap things up on our end too. Lark came over to see the chimera Kizuna dragged to smirk a little. You need some help carrying that, little miss. I can carry it all by myself, thank you. I also figured Izuku might want to get some of the gear you can get from this boss. I already had my fill in my weapon and so did Glass, so the three of you are the only ones that need to. I don't want it. Izuku spoke up a little irritated while looking at his hands. I don't deserve the drops of this wave. I didn't do a damn thing to deserve it. Come on, kiddo. It's not that bad. Besides, you need to get stronger in order to. All I did today was be attacked, knock around a few monsters, and didn't kill them and be saved by Sadina. I didn't do a damn thing that was hero-like in the slightest, so as far as I'm concerned, you all didn't need me. Smack. Glass immediately smacked Izuku over the top of the head with her vassal weapon. Ow, what was that for? Glass, that might've. Shut up. Do you even realize how hard all of us had worked because of being trapped in this world? We fought and had seen people die because we aren't strong enough. You are acting childish right now because of your failure. Nobody expected you to be the crowning star in this. The purpose of you being here was to learn and support where you can as well as find out how things go here so you can become more useful in the future. But you can't be more useful unless you get stronger, so stop acting like a child and do what you can to get stronger. You've never shown us any reason you don't want to get stronger until now, so why do so now? Everyone was a little shocked about how serious Glass was. Very rarely would she ever lose her temper, but she was so quick to get emotional against Izuku. Realizing now that he was somewhat childish, Izuku smacked his cheeks a little and walked towards the chimera. He placed some of the remains in his weapon to unlock a chimera viper gauntlet. Thanks, Glass. I needed that. It's hard being weak. I understand that, but it's not shameful to admit you are. The problem you must discover though is how to get stronger. It's not always easy, but I have faith you of all people can do it. She walked off towards the closest town to find out where they were for even Kizuna to be amazed. I think Glass really likes you. You think? She could do a million more things than help you train. She also says in secret to me that she has confidence in how much you'll be a great hero and was a little jealous when you started spending time with Sadina. Kizuna began laughing a little at this before hugging Izuku. You did a good job, all things considered. Nice work. The group started heading out with Izuku grabbing a few more materials to unlock a few other gauntlets. However, he noticed what looked like a book on the ground. What's this? He opened the book to notice it was written in a language he wasn't familiar with. This isn't any language I'm even aware exists. Is this supposed to be code language or something? Oh. Never thought I'd see my world's language here. Sadina pointed this out while looking over Izuku's shoulder. You know what this says? Yes. It's a spell book and it explains how to use support magic and wind magic. If you want, I can teach you how to read it. I'd like that. Please. The group left with several people rushing in to take care of the corpses of the residual monsters. They handled it quickly and efficiently for Izuku to have a few questions about how the world has been able to hide the waves so easily and what would happen if one day this information became general knowledge. Not only that, but also what the vassal weapons and other cardinal weapons were and why he's never seen or heard of any others. But these were questions he wasn't concerned with and threw them in the back of his mind to pay more attention to the task at hand for getting stronger to support the waves more. Chapter 6 Entrance Exam. Several months passed since Izuku's first wave with things going rather well for him. Thanks to his participation, he was able to push the respawn of Japan's next waves back to about 5 months each, with it giving a 2-month time addition between them. Along with this, his level was able to grow where his second wave, though was not as successful as he wanted, was undoubtedly better than his first. At least in this one he was able to defeat enemies and give more benefit for his efforts. Speaking of efforts, Izuku and Sadina were also able to complete cleaning the beach before the next wave, to give a form of accomplishment to Izuku. It made him somewhat happy as well as a moment for Sadina to mess with him and say that this would give her the chance to show off a swimsuit she could wear for him to make Izuku go beet red. Right now, Izuku is looking at his stats while walking towards UA's gates in hopes to prepare for the entrance exams. Izuku Midoriya. Hero. Level. 35. Weapon. Chimera Viper Gauntlet. HP. 786, plus 40. SP. 310, plus 35. AC. 328, plus 40. F. 210, plus 10. SPD. 298. SP AC. 215. SP Def. 210. Equip effect. Poison resistance. Secondary venom strike. Set effect. Second fist. Slot added effects. Airstrike fist. Ice grip. I might not be at the stats I'd prefer to be at, but I'm definitely at a decent point for where everyone else could be. Boy, what the buck are you doing here? Deku. Izuku pulled himself out of his thoughts when he heard Bakugo to turn and give a scowl. I told you not to take the entrance exams, you bastard. Also, how the buck did you do what you did before? I don't have to listen to you nor tell you anything. You have a problem with me, then you can take this as an answer. Izuku turned around and flipped Bakugo off to irritate him more. The ash blonde walked up to Izuku and grabbed his shirt collar to keep him from going anywhere. You honestly want to go right here and now? Go ahead. I've been waiting for today where I can show you just what this worthless piece of shit you call me can do. Izuku gave a cold glare to Bakugo with no hint of remorse for what he said to shock the ash blonde. Never in the time he's known Izuku has he ever stood up the way he is now. Whatever happened to him was something that Bakugo both didn't like and mildly feared. DCH. You're not worth it. Just stay out of my way or I'll bucking end you. Wow, what's that guy's issue? Izuku turned his head to the right and saw a cute girl with brown hair and a bob cut and a permanent blush on her cheeks. He's just got some anger issues, he said to her with a little smirk. That's not even him angry. You should see him when he foams out the mouth. You'd almost believe he has rabies. Izuku laughed at this with the girl mildly concerned. Anyway, my name's Ichako Uraraka. What's yours? Izuku Midoriya. Wait, I thought he called you Deku. Izuku scowled at the name before Ichako understood what this was. Sorry, I didn't know. If it means anything, I think Deku could make a great hero name. It kinda gives off a you can do it sort of vibe with me saying yeah, I was thought to be useless, but look at me now. Hearing the excuse, Izuku started to laugh at this before smirking a little. I'll be honest, I like your way of looking at it. Hope we meet in the future. Izuku walked into the school with Ichako following behind. As they went in, a notable envy came from the bushes by two people. Well, that's somewhat annoying. Indeed. Izuna. Glass. Must we hide? It seems a little rude to do. Teresa tried to get them out of a bush as the fan and hunting heroes gave a mildly spiteful stare. Fine. Lark's waiting for us inside anyway. Might as well join him. Later on the training grounds. The opening orientation given by President Mick was longer than most expected, but they were told their objective. When everyone was focusing, Izuku was taking deep breaths to calm the nerves. The very moment loud metal doors opened, Izuku rushed in, which confused everyone until Mick shouted. What are you waiting around for? There's no ready set in real life, follow the kid. Everyone rushed in with Izuku having a bit of an advantage prior to all of them. Alright. Time to see what I can do. A three-pointer robot came to Izuku for him to evade it and go right for its head. He was able to punch it clean off, defeating the robot with little ease to stare down at his hand. Guess my training with glass is paying off. Several other two-pointers came to surround Izuku for a smile to be on his face. Now let's see how my magic affinity works. As source of thy power, the fist hero orders thee. Decipher the laws of creation and send a tornado to blow my targets away. I cast fast tornado. A large cyclone came to pull all the robots into the air for Izuku to pull his fist back. Now, Cyclone Airstrike Fist. Using the knowledge he got from Lark and Teresa's teamwork, Izuku was able to create a combo skill to completely destroy the robots with hardly any effort, obtaining almost 40 points already. I wonder if this would be cheating since I have both my quirk and magic. It doesn't matter to me. Technically I'm not doing anything against the rules. People here have support gear to help them, so it shouldn't be as much of a problem. In the observation room. Alright. So does anyone know anything about this little listener? He literally just used two quirks. Mick asked for Lark to smile. Do you know what he is doing, Sickle? A small rodent asked for Kizuna to smile happily at what she was watching. Also, why is one of the big four here? To answer your question, Ms. Midnight. I'm here to watch my friend compete. We helped train him, and he has an RPG-type quirk like us. That explains how he's one-shotting the robots. A scrafty man stated while everyone took a closer look at Izuku over most others. How high is he now? The man asked for Midnight to pull up the information. 65. This guy isn't human, Mick shouted for the small rodent to smile. That look is never good with Nezu. Midnight thought this as the rodent named Nezu took a sip of his tea before slamming his hand onto a giant red button. This should help tell us how strong the boy is. Back on the battlefield. Izuku had taken down more robots while keeping track of his points at 65 when suddenly a group of robots rushed him. Izuku took their point values and added it to his score, making 90 points. Without hesitation he dispatched all of them without an issue thanks to his combat experience. Suddenly the ground began to quake and every other participant began to freak out when a massive shadow covered the area. Izuku saw the 0-point robot and it reminded him of a boss during the waves. Now this is something. Now Izuku's attention moved to below the skyscraper robot to see the girl from before underneath it. Her leg was stuck under fallen debris with nobody around to help. Everyone get back, now a guy with glasses led everyone out of the robot's stepping range, either not realizing Achako or thinking that she'd be fine, considering this was an entrance exam. Wasting no effort, Izuku ran in hoping to prevent any harm from coming to her with the robot's foot about to stomp on her. I'm not gonna make it in time. Grip fist using one of his skills, Izuku covered Achako in a large fist to have the robot stomp on that first, with the force hardly being stopped for a few more seconds to get Izuku close enough. As source of thy power, I order thee. Decipher the laws of nature and bring forth a thunderstorm towards my enemies. Zwei Thunderbolt. Izuku let loose a massive thunderbolt to send the robot flying back right before the timer for his skill would cancel it out. Achako saw the robot on its back to stare and marvel. What just happened? Stay completely still. Izuku mentioned this as he gave a quick punch to the debris, destroying it entirely in the process. You okay? Yeah. My leg just hurts. Don't worry. Izuku pulled out a jewel and began using a healing spell Teresa taught him just in case the worst happened. Bejeweled heal. A strange light came over Achako's leg for the pain in her ankle to no longer be present. Better. Yeah, actually. What did you do? It's a long story and it would go over your head, but I was able to heal you because of a trick I know to keep it simple. Present Mick shouted that the timer was up for everyone to stop. When they did, Achako saw Izuku leave to stand up and follow him. Deku wait up. He stopped for a second for Achako to catch up. Sorry if I'm being a little pushy, but you wanna hang out? You know, kinda like a thanks for saving my skin sorta hang out. Izuku smirked at this before nodding. Sure. Izuku and Achako had left the school grounds together and headed to a cafe that was near the school. The two had a pleasant conversation on their way to the cafe when they entered and were seated and handed menus. Izuku noticed Achako had a very pensive look when staring at the menu, as if she was calculating her portion of the bill. If you want, this can be on me. It's okay. I've got my half. Besides, it would be kinda mean to make you pay for me when I invited you here to be a thank you. She tried to brush it off, but Izuku could tell Achako was worried about how much she'd have to pay. Understanding the need to keep her at ease, he decided to tell her an honest truth. Alright, I'll explain something that makes you a little more at ease. I work for the government doing a job that not many can do. In exchange, they pay me pretty nicely. Not enough to live in luxury, but where a nice meal out on occasion won't be a problem. Let me pay for this for you if you're that worried. What would Lark say to make this sound nicer? Besides, it seems like a waste if I can't use spare money I have on a pretty girl like yourself. Izuku smirked a little for Achako's face to go completely red. Notable steam came off her face for her to press her head on the table to avoid being seen. As she did, Izuku noticed his circle of friends comrades sitting with fake mustaches and sunglasses on watching. Something tells me Kizuna had a part in that. An hour later. After finishing their meal, Izuku and Achako began walking back to the station. There, they had to take 2 different trains home for them needing to part. Well, this is where I head off. Thanks again for everything, Deku. It's nothing. He smirked a little for Achako to stare at him for a moment. What's wrong? Without saying anything, she immediately hugged Izuku for it to confuse him. You just look like you needed someone to hug you. Sorry. There was a confusion in the mix from why Achako suddenly thought hugging him was needed, but a mild comfort in this for the Cardinal Quirk user. He began to hug back and smile at the warmth he felt. It was very similar to how it felt when Sadina or Kizuna would hug him in the aspect it gave a form of tension relief. Achako pulled away when her train got to the station to give a small paper to Izuku. Here. When we get results, I want you to call and tell me how you did. Hopefully we both get in. Sure. He placed a small paper in his pocket for Ichako to hop on her train and wave goodbye with Izuku doing the same. When she was out of sight, Izuku's small smile turned into a frown before turning around. I know you're all there and have been spying on me. What gave it away? Lark asked, still holding a novelty mustache on his face. I don't know, maybe the fact 4 of you growing a mustache would be weird and wearing sunglasses indoors would be a red flag. I told you it wouldn't work. At least I tried. Kizuna brushed off Teresa's comment with Izuku continually staring at them. What? You have the power to take down monsters that could destroy this world, you have the knowledge of 2 different worlds, and you all can almost certainly make some form of camouflage due to what world you come from. Yet the best disguises you can come up with are sunglasses and mustaches. You say that as if it's a bad thing. Glass retorts back for Izuku to be prepared to say something, but chooses not to. Alright. Let's go home, kiddo. You did good today. The group began boarding the train they had to take for Izuku to smile a little at the praise. You guys taught me well to do a good job, old man. I'm not getting you to stop calling me that, am I? Just get rid of the kiddo, and I'll stop. The group laughed a bit before the door shut behind them and began moving. First day. Somewhere in North America. After a small girl with blonde hair and a blue dress on ran through an open area. Though it did not seem as if she had trouble finding them, she held no actual shoes, along with a strange set of wings on her back resembling an angel's. Philo. Do not call for the master so casually. It's rude. The girl, now known as Philo, ran towards a woman and a man sitting on a few stumps watching the sunrise. The woman had white hair and what looked like a tail and ears that resembled a white tiger, with her eyes shut with no real trouble knowing where to speak, and a man looked similar to a bandit with dark hair and a facial feature that showed he could be Japanese in origin. The more notable thing about him though was the shield that was on his forearm bound to him. Atla. Don't be mean. What did you need, Philo? We got a letter from the scythe guy and big sis Kizuna. They said the punching guy they found is almost ready to go across the world. Does this mean we'll have new friends? The man reached for the letter to begin reading it and smirking. Philo. Can you get the phone so I can call Raftalia, Keel, Eclair, and Rishia? I'll also need someone to contact Motoyatsu to tell him about what we'll be doing. Which is what, Master Nafumi? Atla asked for the man Nafumi to respond. We'll be having a meeting in Japan next week. I think it's about time we see who this Izuku Midoriya kid is and what a cardinal hero of this world is like. Chapter 7 First Day. Over the last month, Izuku had been able to learn a little more about Ichako, as well as hang out with her a little more. Glass had some misgivings with this, but was talked out of posing arguments by Kizuna and Teresa, who said this benefits him knowing not everything has to be so serious. She let up, but showed some forms of jealousy when seeing Izuku with Ichako. Though they've never met officially, the group could tell she was a good person from how she interacted around Izuku as they hung out and on some occasions went somewhere for a bite. Right now, Izuku is preparing to head out the door with Kizuna to pass Lark sitting at the table reading the paper. You both seem to be up bright and early. It's Izuku's first day of UA. He's probably gonna get lost, so I'd rather him learn where to go. Also, we're meeting Uraraka. I wanna see what she's like around someone other than just Izuku. Careful. Your envy's showing. Lark laughed at his own comment for neither high schooler to laugh. As Izuku had gone to pick up Ichako from her apartment, Kizuna happily followed so they could walk to school together. After arriving he knocked on her door when the brunette opened up. Izuku saw Ichako wear the UA uniform. Damn, she looks good in her uniform, Izuku thought to himself, before snapping out of it by a pinch from Kizuna. Oh yeah, Uraraka. This is my friend Kizuna. She's a third year in UA. I hope you don't mind her walking with us. You're a third-year student, awesome. I kinda figured you were his little sister or something, since you look like you're 12. Guess you're a lollipop. Why does everyone think I'm a lollipop? Izuku stared at Kizuna for a moment before stating the obvious. You can't blame them for thinking the obvious when you're the size of someone younger than us. But hey, some guys have a little kin. Kizuna gave a solid punch to Izuku's gut for him to understand he overstepped his boundaries. Sorry. Oh yeah, Deku. What exactly is your quirk? You mentioned what you did was a little complicated to explain, so I was just wondering how it is, as well as you never really gave me a straight answer to your quirk. It's an RPG-based quirk, so I level up with my quirk. It's also how I get my funds from the government since I do some jobs people don't necessarily do. That's so cool, so your life is like a video game? Both Kizuna and Izuku nodded since it's not a lie per se, but also not saying everything in truth. Mine's kinda the same as his, so it's easier to explain it as we both have the same type, but our methods of using it are different. The hunting hero noticed they were close to the train station to glance over at the group. We should probably pick up the pace. If we don't, you two might not get to school on time. Right. The three went towards the station and hopped on their train to UA, with some satisfaction between Izuku and Ichako, not only for passing, but also being in the same class. Half-hour later. Arriving at the door to the first year's classroom, Izuku and Ichako were marveled by the size of the door itself. This is nuts. Yeah. Hard to believe this is the door to a first-year hero course classroom. Upon entering the school, Kizuna had to go up the stairs to the third year's classroom she was assigned to, but wished the duo luck before heading off. You wanna open it, or should I? I got it. Ichako reached for the door and began opening it. When she slid it open about an inch, a loud shout came from inside. Get your feet off that desk, it is an insult to our upperclassmen, that SAT in it, and the people who made it. Izuku heard the guy and remembered his voice from the entrance exams as the one that tried to lead everyone away from the zero-pointer. A second voice came for the Cardinal Quirk user to immediately know it was Bakugo to open the door and walk in with no distinct care for anyone inside. It was only when the engine quirk user that proclaimed himself to be Tenyuida saw the two and ran right towards them with a hand-chopping gesture. Hello. My name is Tenyuida. I could hear you loud and clear from the hallway. You may want to lower your voices so you don't disturb anyone in another classroom. Izuku cut him off before sitting in his seat behind Bakugo. The ash blonde scowled, looking back at Izuku for him to flip Bakugo off. You can scowl at me all day, Kachin. It's not gonna make a difference. I'm here, I'm part of the class you're in, I'm probably around the top 5 in this class as you are. Get over it. You bastard. Bakugo immediately grabbed Izuku by his collar to glare at him. I wanna know what the buck you did back then, where did you get that weird power of yours, and how you passed the entrance exams. That's enough. An adult voice shouted for everyone to turn to the hall and see a man who looked like he needed either a large coffee with several espresso shots or a crazy large energy drink in him. I don't care who started this, both of you sit down now before I expel both of you for picking a fight on the first day. The comment was a tad strange, but surprisingly unbiased. This shocked Izuku a little as the man continued his explanation. Hello. My name is Shota Izawa, and as of today, I'll be your homeroom teacher. Izawa went into a sleeping bag and he had to pull out 20 PE uniforms and place them on the podium. Put these on and meet me outside. 10 minutes later. Walking outside to an open field with some lines on it, no different than any normal high school field, the entire class was a tad confused what they were doing here. Excuse me sir, but what are we doing out here? Iida asked for Izawa to explain in a blunt manner. We're going to be holding a quirk apprehension test. What about orientation? To make it simple, Uraraka, UA allows for its teachers to train their students in ways of adding or taking out things that they deem irrelevant that aren't a requirement for you. As such, I can teach my class however I want. Midoriya. Aizawa passed a ball to Izuku before continuing. You scored the highest in the entrance exam. What was your farthest throw in middle school? 48 meters. Try it with your quirk this time. Izuku walked towards a circle where it held certain meters for marking. You can do whatever you want, just don't step out of the circle. So if I were to punch it, that would work? Aizawa nodded. Being allowed this, Izuku transformed his gauntlets to the Chimera Viper gauntlets to impress a bunch of people. Once done, he tossed the ball up and taking aim at it. He gave a solid punch right at the center to send it flying before pulling his other fist back. Airstrike fist, the skill he used, connected with the ball to give a little more force, with his first fist used pulling back again. Second fist, a second airstrike fist came out to attack the ball once again and give even more distance. Nobody could see where the ball went for Aizawa to hold out his phone to show it went 1.03 km. No way. After seeing a high score for his ball throw, people were impressed except for an explosive Pomeranian who immediately charged at him while screaming, "Shitty Deku, how'd you do that?" Izuku had been prepared to throw a monstrous counterpunch, but Kitsuki was intercepted by their teacher Aizawa, who wrapped him up in his capture gear. "What the hell is up with this stupid scarf?" Kitsuki said as he was struggling to break free from the capture gear. "This capture gear is made of a special alloy that tightens up the more you struggle. I also suggest you not make me use my quirk for long periods of time. I get a bad case of dry eye." Looking at Izuku next, Aizawa gave him a silent nod for him to walk off. "So just who is our teacher?" Aradit asked for Izuku to specify. "The underground hero. Eraserhead. I couldn't tell at first glance, but the goggles under his scarf are a giveaway as well as his quirk. His quirk allows him to cancel out anyone's quirk that's not a mutation type for as long as he stares at them without blinking. Interesting quirk to get the drop on someone, but isn't flashy or able to be used against multiple enemies easily." "Correct, Midoriya." Aizawa let go of Bakugo for him to begrudgingly return to the group. "Today you'll be doing 8 tests. Each are the common physical tests that most schools require you to take. This time though, you'll be using your quirks to determine where you stand among one another." "This sounds like fun." A pink-skinned girl spoke up with some excitement of what they were doing. For some reason, this rubbed their teacher the wrong way to give a somewhat irritated smirk. Fun? If you think that training is fun, then how about this? Last place will be deemed to have no talent as a hero and be expelled on the spot. You're gonna expel someone on the first day, everyone shouted with Achako speaking up. But we all worked hard to get here, that's not fair. Neither is having to face world-destroying calamities and not getting even a thank you from the world as a whole, but you don't hear me complain. Izuku said this comment to himself, somewhat irritated with Achako's choice of words, while Izawa explained how the world has several things that aren't fair that heroes have to handle, while also explaining that the school's motto is going beyond your own limits plus ultra for most to now feel uneasy. Easiest way to avoid being kicked out is to not be last. Just do everything as best you can and you'll manage. Izuku said this to himself as he gripped his fists. As the exams got underway, Izuku was able to manage quite well with most tests. Thanks to his training and stamina, he was able to outlast everyone in the long-distance run to gain first in that. The side steps, grip, 100-meter dash, sit-ups and toe touches he did exceptionally well in as well to not place first, but close to it. The ball throw he didn't have to worry about and did well in that. His only struggle was the standing long jump since he technically didn't have any special skills that could help him. Overall though, Izuku could tell he stood probably among the top 5 from what he's done. After the tests. Alright. I'm not gonna go over the tests individually since most of you already know where you stand in them and just give an overall placing. But before I do, I should probably point this out. Nobody's getting expelled. What everyone shouted with as I was smiling at them. You think I'd be that crude to do that? It was a logical road to get you all to try your hardest. Wait, everyone thought that he actually was going to. A girl with defined features and black hair tied back in a spiky ponytail asked everyone. Sorry, I probably should have said something. Izuku walked over to explain something somewhat important to clarify with the girl. He said it in her ear so nobody would overhear. Actually, that could have happened. A friend of mine's a third year and she said last year he expelled an entire class and didn't think twice about it. Are you serious? How does he even have authorization to do that? I don't know, but knowing that might be important to remain in line as far as I care to know. Syllabuses are on the desks in the classroom. Make sure to grab one on your way home. Class dismissed. Aizawa walked away with Achako running up to hug Izuku. Deku, you got second place, nice job. Izuku glanced up to see his name right below a girl called Momo Yaoirozu. I'm guessing you're Yaoirozu then. Izuku turned to the dark-haired girl for her to nod. Yes. But why does she call you? She trailed off, not wanting to use an insulting word for Izuku to explain. It's a nickname I had growing up. She thinks it's a good hero name, so I figured it wouldn't be that bad to give her that. Ah. That reminds me, what is your quirk? Momo asked for Izuku to give a vague answer. It's a long story. Just consider it an RPG quirk and leave it at that. The group began walking inside with everyone changing and heading out towards the exit. Waiting near the entrance to the school, Kizuna sat on a bench in a somewhat dazed form for Izuku to notice this. Kizuna. He walked over to start jostling her a bit to get no response. Kizuna. You okay? Who is this girl and why is she sleeping on school premises? Iida came behind Izuku for him to glare back at him. Not everyone wants to hear your mouth. Shut it and leave my friend be. She's going through a hard time right now. Achako and Momo came behind for Kizuna to quickly snap back to reality. What happened? You were dozing. Izuku spoke up for Kizuna to turn to him. He mouthed your curse activated to her for Kizuna to nod. Sorry if I kept you waiting then. How about we get going? I'm sure Glass wants to train us a little and Teresa wants to know how our first day went. Without any warning, Kizuna snapped back to her lively self for her to trudge forward with their group. Unfortunately, Achako and Momo seemed a little worried from what they saw to have the dark-haired girl ask Achako about this. Does she normally daze off into sleep like that? I don't think so. Maybe today was just harder than she expected. They tried to make a reason for this, but the fact they saw Kizuna clearly in a state of being completely devoid of thought scared them. They put this to the side and began following Izuku and Kizuna out of the gate. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.